Thank you. Yep. All right. Thank you all for coming. Before I get started, I want to ask you guys a question. Who of you has hired someone before or is a hiring manager? And please keep your hand up if you also made a bad hiring decision. And then who of you believes it was partly because of cultural misfit or maybe even motivation? Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Now, I myself led a business line for one of the largest HR companies in the world, and I've seen this problem every single day. And it's really no surprise that many of us also experienced really difficulties with bad hiring decisions, because it's actually 75% of managers who experience the same thing, and companies spend about 1.5 times of an annual salary on a bad hire. Now, I think we can all agree it is a big problem. The question is rather, why haven't we been able to solve this yet? And for this, let's have a look at the reasons for bad hire. And it turns out that 2 of the 3 top reasons for bad hire are related to cultural issues and to motivation or attitude in general. Now, the thing is, though, when we think about hiring, we mostly focus on performance and skills. What I mean by that is that right now, we hiring managers and recruiters really just go on LinkedIn, Indeed, and for college graduates specifically on Handshake, and they look at a list of skills and they look at resumes, but really they miss out on looking at other things like cultural fit, for example. And this is where we come in, and this is a problem we want to solve. We help companies avoid bad hires by changing the way we look at the hiring process and specifically the sourcing process or the early stages of the hiring. Now, until now, it was actually pretty difficult to filter out things like cultural fit, purpose, and so on. And that was because the technology wasn't just ready. You basically just were able to do keyword matchings. And it was also because like the people we were hiring were not that interested in that. The generation was just different. But this is changing right now, mostly due to 2 reasons. And the first one is that the Gen Z is entering the market. And it's mostly right now, they comprise of 7% of the workforce today. But in the next 2 years, it's going to be 27%. That means suddenly we have a large group of people who do care about purpose, who do care about values, and who care about the company culture. And in fact, it's actually that 80% of the Gen Z workforce says they only want to work for someone where they align with the purpose and the values of the company. And I can speak for myself, I'm Gen Z as well. I would say that's true. The other trend we see, now the very unsurprising thing, LLMs, the way they really help us is in the matching process. So far, you could really only look at structured data and keyword matching, but what we can do now is we can take a person and really look at that person on a very holistic way with unstructured data, and that's going to improve like matching companies with jobs, companies with applicants much, much better. Now, so basically taking these 2 trends, we can now go from a one-dimensional hiring and specifically sourcing process based on skills, all the way to a 3-dimensional process where we focus on skills, culture, and also purpose or passion and motivation. And to look at how we make this happen, let's take a step at our demo.
All right, so we created a mobile-first experience for the Gen Z to say goodbye to the traditional resumes. So to get started with Fistbump, the first thing that we do is we capture the data from their LinkedIn profile. We also capture things like their top traits as well as their passion. Well, here's the fun part. We're going to take them through a highly engaging free-form surveys. They would be engaged with these would you rather type questions. What's more, they can actually use the voice to talk about the top careers and the companies that they want to work for. So here we're able to generate a very rich profile of the users, not just based on skills, but also their passion and their personality traits. What's more, they can even compare with their peer group and even ask their friends to review them and generate an even richer profile. So here's the magic. With ChatGPT, we're able to leverage AI to really highly generate a set of job recommendation that's not just based on skills, but also about company culture and their passion. So behind the scene, we leverage company data by inviting teams from companies to also go through the same set of user experience. And through that, we also leverage unstructured data that we get from publicly available sources. We use ChatGPT and our proprietary model to be able to match the job applicant with really highly tailored job applications and really be able to help Gen Z job seekers to find their passion.
Now, we're really excited about this, and we're able to talk to 15 company leaders throughout the past 24 hours. 12 of those 15 already told us they're willing to pay a 20% fee or the 20% of the annual salary of a hire if we make them avoid a bad hire, which is essentially the industry standard for a recruiter right now. From a Gen Z perspective, we're also able to talk to a couple of them and essentially just validated that the main issue is that it's really complicated for them to filter through what they actually care about beyond just the skill matching. And they really want something where they see purpose in the company as well. So now to go-to-market. From a go-to-market perspective, we're going to start targeting first the students directly through things like email lists on the college campuses. We all have pretty good network into that as well. We provide like inherent value to the platform. It's not just a matching, but we will help these students understand themselves better. We help them compare themselves to the peers, and we hope that we then acquire many users. The other step will be we will go through the career centers of the universities directly, because then we have a much larger reach. And simultaneously, as we said earlier, we will also work together with companies, both to gather the data from them, understand their culture, but then of course also help them with the hiring and charge them the industry standard 20% fee. Now, this is our team. We all have experience as founders, hired more than 350 people together. Ken and CK have both founded and exited companies before, among others, to Google. For me, myself, ultimately, this is also a very personal endeavor. I grew up in Germany in a very small town, ended up being a competitive ski racer for many years, competed internationally, and really became very passionate about human potential and human performance. And realized what it is all about is the environment you are in and the people you surround yourself with. But many people are just not aware of the opportunities that make them thrive. And it was the same for me. And really, this is why we are creating Fistbump. It's about making my generation reach their full potential and make their dreams come true. Thank you very much.
So any questions in the room? We have mics here to pass around. So any questions for Fistbump here in the room? Yes, here we go.
This doesn't happen in all places, of course, but often you'll see there's a difference between what companies say they are and what they really are. Do you guys have an idea, culturally speaking, right? Do you guys have any thoughts on how you would address that in your platform?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at most of, I can take the first crack, and then if you guys have more to feel free to add. But yeah, if you look at most of the websites of the company, I mean, the culture section, it's just like a bunch of jargons, right? So eventually the companies will have to go through a similar process to enter their information. If you're like a team manager, then maybe you can talk more about the specific type of talents that you're looking for in terms of culture. So we're gonna have to ask companies to fill out their information. Of course, we're gonna make the process really easy by pre-populating as much as possible. Now, in order for companies and teams to want to do that, we first need to get the consumer side or the applicant side first, right? So the game plan is let's get as many Gen Z candidates, potential candidates as possible by providing them an interactive, you've seen the demo, where they can really express themselves, that LinkedIn and resume doesn't really tell about you. So they need a place where they can talk about who they really are and what they really care about. through this interactive demo, mobile first experience. So with that, with enough candidate pool, we're going to ask the companies and teams interested in hiring the Gen Z workforce, hey, in order to get matched, you also have to enter your own information as well, and possibly through a similar interactive experience for them as well.
And maybe add a small thing. It's also they have an inherent motivation to fill this out themselves. What we would see doing is that it's basically the team lead that we would talk to, and the team members would fill out a similar process as the applicant themselves. How do we avoid lying, and how do we avoid like them just like portraying everything in a great way? The goal is that we also give them advice of who they really need in their team, not just from a skills perspective, but also from like who fits into your team from like a introvert versus extrovert working style position. And some teams that do this right now already, they ask their employees, can you fill out these personality tests? And so they are, and we checked actually with them for interviews, are motivated to do that even without the matching.
Okay, another question in back. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks. As a Gen Z myself, one thing I'm curious about is the big mix of job platforms that we have to deal with. There's like 6 or 7 of them already. Some of them are quite campus or even student organization specific. So my question is a bit more about your go-to-market on how would you squeeze yourself in and build adoption?
I can take this one and then to you. First of all, I'm not a Gen Z, unfortunately, but so turns out, but I hired a bunch of people. We hired 300 plus people, and you know, I had a lot of personal experience where you know, there's simply no way you can know about this person just by looking at the resume. So typically, you get the resume or LinkedIn, right, and then you just like, you know, look at the skills, right? Oh, it's like a software engineer. And then you do the interview, but everybody does really well on the interviews. I mean, it's really easy to fake, right? And then, you know, the person finally comes in, and after like 2 weeks, you know, you have like, oh shit, you know, moment, right? It's like, you know, we hired the wrong person. So turns out one of the biggest problems for that is there simply is no really good place where people can express themselves outside of the LinkedIn and resume, especially for Gen Z, college graduates, right? So then as a recruiter, the next best option for you to really see who this person is just by looking at their social media. I mean, you know, hiring managers, they don't talk about this, but you know, they all say, you know, do this, right? They go to somebody's social media and try to check them out. There's 2 problems. One is there's a very high chance that you can see somebody drinking too much beer and passing out, right? That's really real. And the second is privacy. So you just need a good place where people can express themselves, the things that they can't put on LinkedIn or resume. And the other really important factor about the moat is, you know, just by having this interactivity. And then one of the things that Gen Z people really want to do is to get to know more about themselves. Have you guys heard of MBTI, Myers-Briggs? That's like crazy, viral. Everybody does that. Why? Because everybody wants to know more about themselves. And just by telling or helping people to understand more about themselves through this interactive questions, that's a first party value. So our hope is that Gen Z job applicants will try to know more about themselves by using our product. And then that's going to hopefully give us a more database that we can leverage to bring the demand side, which is companies.
Yeah, just quickly to add to that. So we over the past 48 hours, we have done a lot of research on what's out there today in all the college campuses. And a lot of them are just dated back like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, very, very, rudimentary, search lists that you just filter down. So I think there is an opportunity because those were designed for, the Gen X, which is myself, and the millennials, and not for the new, the new workforce that are coming up. So I think that is really the white space that we see.